Kanga. We are AFLW premiers.
The pressure, but it's picked up by Archer again. He tries to crash through the pack. He does. He got through Maxwell, and he has a flying shot for goals. And that is a magnificent Glenn Archer goal. 2 in a minute.
I'm thinking how to start this one.
Flaggers.
Flaggers.
That's it. That's all done.
Podcast done. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next
everyone.
time. It was fun, Marnie. We won a premiership, and my voice is a little bit croaky, and now I'm speaking louder because we started recording. I'm noticing that my voice is more crackly than I thought it was when I was talking my deep husky voice before.
Yeah, no, I also just was about to say the same thing.
It's definitely. I ripped a massive kanga. If you guys follow the Instagram, I ripped a big kanga. My voice did break in the video.
It did,
but I carried it on and got the kanga done. Well, absolutely, because the girls didn't give up, so I didn't either.
No, you're dedicated to the kanga.
100%, and that was a fun time. Now, did that blow my voice out? 100%, but that's fine because
worth it.
We won a premiership.
We won a premiership. I was about to swear. I had to control myself. Yes, no. Wow.
Crazy
awesome.
times.
So good.
It's so weird because it's like, part of me is like, I should be way more excited. Then I think about it and I start going, oh, that was so much fun. And I'm going through like weird cycles. I'm like, how do I react to winning? This is so different.
It's not even about that. It's just sort of like, the men and the women, it's like chalk and cheese. And it's like you kind of go into every game. We have not lost a game all season. We drew one game against Geelong, which we were at, which was just miserable.
Yes, that was gross.
It was horrible. But, you know, you kind of go into this and you're like, you kind of expect it. Like, it's weird. It's not an arrogant thing. And Brisbane are a phenomenal side and an incredible operation from top down, and men and women and, you know, the entire thing. So to go in there, and again, it's no disrespect to them, but you kind of expected to win.
I was expecting to win.
And it's like, I don't know what that's like.
Well, winning breeds confidence, doesn't it? It's like, well, you're confident all the time, Marnie, but even if the men pull out a couple of wins in a row, we're all going to be thinking maybe next game we can win that one too. And that's sort of like, you know, sort of breeds confidence. But then the women win all the time. So I just was sort of like, you know, I couldn't make any of the prelim and the semis because of work, which I wasn't happy about at all. But I kind of felt okay because I'm like, well, we're going to play in the granny anyway. So it's
such a weird feeling, and it's not to be arrogant or get ahead of yourselves, but it's more that we have been the benchmarked side all year, so we kind of should be going into that expecting to win.
We just won the cup, money, so we can be arrogant, and I think we should. We're the best team ever in the AFL, and
massive club.
Yeah, big club. You know, big time players, big time moments, and we just dominate. That's just what we do. That's North Melbourne.
All
That's
we
what
do
we
is
do.
win.
So. No matter what. So anyway, 39-9 we won, which
crazy
is interesting because the game felt a lot closer than maybe the score suggests. We'll talk about the game a little bit more in a second, but like there's periods of the game where I was just like, we're not scoring and we're dominating and we need to score.
Yeah.
But we got the job done and the celebrations were very, very fun. We ran right up to the boundary line, or we were hanging over the fence, and some of the players came around holding the cup up and all the photos and all that sort of stuff. And I know I'd never been a part of anything like that before, so it was pretty cool.
It was awesome. It was so good. It was great to also just see a packed Icon Park. I know the capacity is 3,500 or whatever it was, but to have 95% North Melbourne fans in the crowd and the chants and the atmosphere, it was second to none. So well done to everyone who did get down. Absolutely. It was a phenomenal atmosphere and it was a really, really great night. Very special night for the club. Yeah,
it was. And you can tell it means a lot to the whole club as well. And I don't know, there's obviously, if people post this sort of stuff online, they're always a bit, never know where to sit on it, but like it is a whole club thing as well. Like that will help the men's team 100%. As well. You know, and I think they did a guard of honour for the ladies, you know, during the week
training
and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. And look, I guess it's all coming out in the content, but it does seem like the men and women North Melbourne players have a connection or some sort of connection as well, which is good because it's only going to do wonders for the whole club. And
100%.
Crocker being, you know, a premiership winning, you know, player with North Melbourne for the men's team and then coaching the women's, you know, I think he would help bring those two sides together as well.
I think so. I think having that one club mentality is going to do us favours in the long term. Most of the men's players were there last night. Clarko was there. And I think you also look at Brisbane, right?
Yeah.
And they've just won the AFL Premiership.
Yes.
And they clearly have a very successful program across both codes.
Yes.
Fagan was there. I think Oscar McInerney was also sitting on the bench.
was he?
So for them to make that effort.
To make the trip down as well.
Well, I think that just shows how important this can be.
It matters.
Look,
it matters.
I and you, I think as well, I can speak for both of us, we probably weren't that invested in the women's until this season.
Definitely. I went to 2 last year and I enjoyed it, but this is my first year of like proper investment for
and
sure.
You know what? If people don't enjoy the women's or they aren't invested in it, that's fine. Like, we're not sitting here saying you have to support it and you have to get on board. Like, it's everyone's prerogative, and I can understand why people might not enjoy it. It's different to the men's league, and that's totally okay. We're not like pushing anything on it, but if you can embrace it, and if you can go into it thinking that, you know, this is one club, then, you know, the gap between our best and our worst across the board on all levels can be lifted and can be, you know, can narrow the gap a little bit. So I think it's great. I think it's so great for the club, and you know, I really am interested to see how this will flow on and impact the rest of pre-season for the men, and then our 2025 season.
Yeah, I think I don't know if, once again, we're never force anyone to get into the AFLW, and this is what I sort of said at the start of this AFLW season as well. I want to cover it more because I didn't do much of it last year. I want to try and get into it, but I want the investment to be organic. Because I think if you can let people get into things organically and naturally and in their own time, that means they're actually going to actively support it. And I'm so on board, and I never thought I would be as invested in the AFLW as I am. And I've had so much fun watching this team. It's so cool to, you know, sort of build a couple of little relationships with the players, and having Tess on was incredible. And I don't know, you can feel closer to it. And I think no one needs to be into this, but if you're not, you're definitely missing out on something. And whatever that is up to the individual, but you're missing out on something because it's so much fun. And to see the crowds grow, the social media interaction with the women's program and everything for North Melbourne specifically, it's grown so much this year. So fantastic stuff. And I had a great time. What else was a great time, Marnie? Was winning.
We love winning.
Now, the first quarter. Let's talk about the first quarter.
Set the tone.
High intensity first quarter. The tackles were flying in.
Yeah, it was very, very high pressure. It was just so good. That first quarter really was so good, but also you don't want to like get ahead of yourself because you're like, okay, Brisbane surely will challenge back at some point. And I actually think they did, but our defence is just rock solid.
Rock solid.
It is the best defence in the competition.
Yeah, for sure.
By a country mile.
Absolutely. Well, the first quarter, I feel like we were on top pretty clearly. And then I think Brisbane's resurgence, maybe, for lack of a better word, definitely came through the middle 2 quarters. That's when the game got incredibly gritty. But in the first quarter, it was a bit end-to-end, to be honest, because I think Brisbane attacked sort of first, and I think Tess rushed through a behind, and then we got it back up the other end. Once again, Tess Craven getting on the end of things up there. But the one thing I want to point out her for and shout out her performance, and we'll talk about individuals more in a second, but she did this little kick, which I was telling you about before, which we were sitting in the crowd with a couple of the close to a flag admins, or Marnie was in the corporate box like usual, up with the coaches, schmoozing with the elites of the competition. And she had the ball and there was so much pressure, and she's just put this kick right into the middle to open the entire game up and relieved so much pressure. And we were all sitting there going, that's what Harry Sheasel does to North Melbourne. Like, that's full Harry Sheasel stats there. Because the game was a lot of get the ball. We won a lot of contests, but it was quick handball out. Early, we were overshooting a lot of handball and that sort of stuff as well, and it wasn't quite clicking. And that was the first moment of the game where I was like, it's almost like she took a breath, then executed this kick to just open the game up, and we attacked from there. I don't know if that's the attack specifically that we ended up scoring from, but Tess Craven did get on the end of a ball that was kicked into the 50 out of a contest, went back and kicked the goal, and we were off. And I loved that. I loved that because her work rate, especially in that first quarter, for the whole game, but that first quarter, doing so much off half back, starting on the wing, ending up in the forward line. She's been doing it all year, but it's great that she's done that on a massive stage and I mean, kicked off what was going to be a great day.
I thought her performance was definitely one of the best across the side. Her running is elite.
Bailey Scott, just
it is elite, just end to end, and constantly creating opportunities and giving us opportunities that wouldn't have been there if it wasn't for her. I think what was so impressive about her game as well is she was winded, like really badly.
Yeah, she was hit a couple of times in that game. Yeah,
not just this game, but last week as well. So to bounce back and to play not only an incredible second half last week, but then to follow along and back it up with one of the best on ground performances last night. just top shelf.
Yeah.
Absolutely top shelf stuff.
Absolutely. Like all throughout that game, her disposal level is one of the highest in the league, I reckon. Like it's very rare that she'll miss a handball or miss a kick or anything like that. I saw her warming up and she was pinging kicks directly to this guy's chest, just the trainer, and warming up and that sort of stuff. And she's been doing that all year, but it's good to do that stuff on a bigger stage. So she kicks the first goal. I think Alice O'Loughlin got the second. I think. And I said before the game, a couple of days before, I tipped over 4 goals to do that again in the grand final, and she almost got it. But all Australian, and you just see why. Like when it was raining before the game, I was like, I don't know if this plays in the North hands or not, but I'm confident as soon as that ball hits the ground for us that we're going to win that ball back. And the only way it really gets out of our forward line 9 times out of 10 is if it goes through the goals. So I thought she was going to feed all day. Great goal. And we got 2 goals up and we're like, okay, is this going to be an absolute whitewash? So unbelievable stuff. She's so exciting to watch, and she even practicing before the game, she's kicking like little snaps from the boundary and things like that. It's unreal.
Yeah, she's a special talent. She had an interesting game, I thought, because she was sort of in everything. She had a couple of big blunders as well. She was paid a holding the ball against it was the second quarter in the pocket. She sort of just like dropped the ball. She had no prior opportunity and the umpire just pinged her for it. And I was like, not sure about that one. That was a bit interesting. And then a little bit later, she was lining up for a shot on goal and she ended up opting for the pass instead of having a shot on goal and turned it over.
True,
and I'm thinking this is really unlike her, yet she finished the game. She was our leading goal scorer with 3 goals and, she's forever dangerous.
Oh, absolutely.
And just such a star. Like you can throw that word around left, right and centre, but that really does apply to her. As you mentioned, all Australian, the only Roo to make the 22 under 22 as well. So to be that young and that exciting and have that much talent, I mean, you forgive her for the blunders for what she ended up delivering. 8 tackles as well
for the game, which is fantastic.
Just ferocious, like a constant. She's a real fighter and she's constantly looking to create opportunities. An opportunistic player. I'm really dusty, guys. I'm so sorry.
That's fine. That's all right, Marnie. My voice is cooked too, so this is going to be a great podcast.
What a great duo.
Yeah, we're at peak form right now. Great effort from her, and she sort of epitomised that. They got back a goal. I can't remember who kicked their goal late in the quarter. That's right, because she kicked another one. Let me just look at the goals here. Yeah, she kicked 2 goals in the first
2 in a
quarter.
row.
And then they got a goal back. Quarter time, 18-7. And I was like, I feel like we're really on top here. But 7 points, it's obviously not done. The next 2 quarters, maybe we can lump them in together.
Dogfight.
Yeah, absolutely. Because we scored 1 goal in the second and didn't score a goal in the third.
Yeah.
There's 1 point scored between both teams in the third quarter to Brisbane. This was when Brisbane's resurgence happened. In the second quarter, I was saying to the guys I was sitting next to, we are dominating possession and we're winning every contest, but we are not scoring. And I'm so scared this is going to come back and bite us.
This is what makes a team great. Because you can do all the flashy stuff and you can do all the fancy stuff. And I think the men, and I hate to bring it back to them, but it's just to use it as a comparison. We know that when our boys get on a roll and they play this real quick, attacking, exciting football, they can go bang, 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 right?
First half against Freo and Collingwood.
But we can't stop the bleeding.
That's right.
If you had $1 for every time I said we can't stop the bleeding on this podcast this year, you'd all be millionaires,
For the last
right?
5 years.
So that's the issue we've got with the men. But then you look at this game, right? And as we said, second, third quarter was really tense. It was a dogfight. It was just a lot of contested footy. It was a lot of stoppage and pressure. But our ability to... Look, we did dominate for a big portion of that, but couldn't get on the scoreboard. But then on the flip side, for us to just negate everything Brisbane threw at us for 2 quarters and hold them to 1 point over 2 quarters is equally as impressive as our ability to get on a run and to just, kill teams by 6, 7, 8 goals within a quarter.
Well, we didn't score much at all over that middle part of the game, but then saying that, they didn't score against us. And I think that's the impressive bit. Like, yes, we didn't score, but our defence was so rock solid that we didn't let them back in the game at all. And even though the game was such an arm wrestle at that point, like I felt like we were dominating around contest, but we weren't creating opportunity from that. And Brisbane didn't have the possession and weren't winning maybe the stoppage like we were, but they were able to get the ball up their end quite quickly. But to not even to allow 1 point over 2 quarters of football, even though we didn't score, our defence is that good. And I think that defenders are constantly underappreciated in Australian rules football in any capacity. And I think a good defense sets up the entire team to attack. And even look at, the men's team second half of the year when our defense was really good for like 6 weeks and all of a sudden we're in games and you're like, oh my
100%.
God, we can score. We just need to stop other teams scoring. And the women's team did that. We weren't capitalising, but neither did they. And it was just a complete dog arm wrestle. The most exciting player in the AFLW scored the only goal in the second quarter, mate. It's Vicky Wall.
Brikki Wall.
Oh, Vicky Wall is box office.
She's a ripper.
Now, I love Jasmine Garner. And she's you could have given that Norm Smith, or whatever they call it for the W, to probably half their team.
Yeah.
I think Vicky Wall's robbed. And is it my heart speaking?
Yes.
No. Maybe a little bit.
Wink, wink, wink.
She was so good.
Yeah, she's great.
2 goals on the night, but the pressure, every time she's around that footy, something happens.
Yeah.
Something happens. She's laying chicks out on the ground, knocking them over. She hit one of the Brisbane players and she's on the ground wincing, had to carry her off, and she just walked away and was like, I don't care. And I love it, Marnie. I love this. Vicky Wall's the best. She's box office.
Do you know what she reminds me of? She's a hybrid between Jack Zeebel's just hard at the ball,
forward line Jack
fearless
Zeebel
attack, and then Bent Brown's iconic run up.
It was a lot of Josh Kennedy about the run up. Actually, it's as long as Ben
so
Brown's
good.
with the stutter of Josh Kennedy.
It is just
what
so
a hybrid.
Good. I love it.
Oh my God.
That's kind of what she reminds me of. But really, just when Zeebs used to the way he attacked the ball, he just didn't second guess it at all. And that is exactly what I see in Vicky Wall.
Yeah. If you mash Archer, Zeeble, Ben Brown and Josh Kennedy together, you get Vicky Wall. That's how you build a wall. Those 4 players. And that is how you build a wall.
That's quite a list.
I love Vicky Wall so much.
She's awesome.
She's the best. She's the best AFLW player to ever play. Maybe the best Australian rules footballer of all time. And that's final.
That's the final word.
That's
Podcast
the final
done.
word. She kicked the only goal for us for the next couple of quarters. And I just want to praise her performance so much because I feel like she's that chaos player and she's almost, if you want to throw one more player in there, almost what Cam Zerha maybe was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
Where not the highest possession getter, but he'll bash someone, then kick a goal.
Midas touch.
Yeah.
Everything she touches turns to gold.
Cyril used to have 12 of the greatest touches you'll see. Yeah. Vicky Wall maybe isn't as clean and silky and smooth as some of these people, but
she makes up
she gets
for
the job
it
done.
in fight.
Yeah.
And in brutality.
The ball drop's a bit suspect, I will say. But when you play rugby sevens, I guess you're not training with that Sharon all the time. But hey, I don't really like Ben Brown's run up. I don't care what the drop looks like as long as it
straight
goes
through the
sticks.
goals, so that's fine. Yeah,
That's
absolutely. It's a barometer thing as well because when she lifts or when she's near the ball, her teammates do walk a little taller as well. So you do need someone like her to complement the polish of a Riddell or a Garner, and that's exactly what she brings. So good on her. And I think the other thing with our forward line is we do have a handful of buzzy small forwards, and if there's not one or two, Bella Eddy was sensational in the qualifying final, but then in the prelim and in the grand final, it was Vicky Wall and Alice.
For sure. Well, that's what I was about to say as well. Is Bella Eddy, we know what she can do in a day, but she didn't need to do anything.
No.
Not that she didn't do anything, but she didn't have to play as much of a role as Wall or O'Loughlin had to.
Yeah.
But if Vicky, first half of the year as well, maybe wasn't stepping up, then Alice O'Loughlin will do it. It's who's going to step up in that game. And Vicky Wall, prelim, and she's a big game player. As we know, prime time Vicky Wall.
Also very impressive. No goals from Sheila, no goals from Randall, and no goals from Emma King either. So that's really impressive.
Yeah. Yeah,
it just shows the depth and the trust that the team has in each other to get the job done. And I think that's something that can't praise them enough for.
Vicky Wall kicked a goal just before, a behind just before halftime. Now, if I remember this correctly, she sent it from maybe 40 metres out or so, and it bounced on a right angle, and we thought it was going to go through, and everyone was up.
Yeah.
And I think
that would have been the goal of the year.
Oh, yeah. She went on a little run and just sent that ball goalwards, and it bounced on a funny angle, and we thought it was going to go through, and I think it just got touched or hit the post or one of those. But the crowd, after that, the amount of Vicky Wall tackles in that quarter, this is the Vicky Wall quarter. Vicky Wall tackles, her goal, and then to end the quarter with her nearly kicking an unreal goal. The crowd in our section was up and about.
That could have been the difference between the best on ground.
Not
to take anything away from Jazzy Garner.
She's an absolute superstar.
She's the GOAT. She really is a tier above the rest.
Yes,
but
absolutely.
Bit of Vicky Wall love never goes astray on the Further North podcast.
No, absolutely not. Well, she's my Hugh Greenwood, Marnie, and you've got to understand this.
If anyone understands.
Well, that's true.
I do.
She's my Hugh Greenwood. Now, when they were announcing who'd won the best on ground at the end of the game, I was at the back of the crowd going, Vicky Wall! And they didn't give it to her. So I was really upset.
I think next year they should call you to get on the judges panel.
I think I should. And I think I'd be really unbiased and impartial.
Yeah, of course.
You can trust my integrity.
Absolutely.
Third quarter, I mean, honestly, there's nothing to talk about in this quarter. It was just grit, grind. Not much really happened. Like, it was just going back and forward the whole time. Like, we looked better, but we just didn't score in this quarter, and Brisbane got a point. So not many highlights to talk about in the third quarter.
No.
I'm trying to remember one thing that really happened. There was so much stuff that happened in the game, but I don't remember a specific moment from this quarter. To be honest.
This was really just doing what we had to do to negate everything Brisbane threw at us.
Now, at 3/4 time, how were you feeling? Because first half, and I think every fan has this experience to some degree. First half, it was party time for us. We were having fun. Yeah. We're kicking goals. Vicky Wall's put on a clinic, and we're just like, this is the best time. And the third quarter started, and we didn't kick a goal. And say halfway through the third, we hadn't scored, and Brisbane had opportunities. And I'm thinking, I'm not having as much fun anymore.
Yeah.
I'm starting to get nervous, and it's starting to get to crunch time.
Yeah, it's interesting. I sort of thought that if we kicked the first goal of the third quarter, we would break the game open and we would just end up winning by 10 goals. Like, that's kind of what I had in my mind. I was like, we've dominated. We chip. And we keep, going at it. Like, something's got to give here. And it never came. Yeah. And I was sort of like, I feel like we're in control and I trust what we're doing. And I think we should be able to get the job done. But you always have that thing in the back of your mind, because this time last year we let the game slip.
Yeah.
But I think it's the girls' confidence in themselves to know where they're at now compared to where they were this time last year.
Yeah.
That really was able to get the job done.
Going into the fourth quarter, I was saying to a couple of the close to a flag boys, whoever kicks this first goal, it's a massive swing. It's almost like a 12-point swing each way, because if we kick the first goal, we break it open to, being 4 goals ahead. And with the way the game's going, that's almost, too many goals to claw back. Yeah. I know last year, PTSD with last quarter goals for Brisbane. But, if they score, it's kind of game on, because then it's only a couple of goals. So what a surprise. Vicky Wall kicks the first goal of the fourth quarter, and it's almost like goodbye Brisbane, because the way the game was going, it's not a nail in the coffin per se, but the way the game was going, kicking that first goal and just coming out and saying, no, this is our grand final.
Yeah.
It did kind of feel like it was done, and it was a little bit of party time, especially when the next goal went in. That was definitely party time.
Yeah.
But as soon as that Vicky Wall goal goes through, I was confident internally that we had it covered. Externally, I was still very nervous, but internally, I was like, yeah, we got it.
Yeah, it was just one of those things. It was almost like a sigh of relief.
Yeah.
When we kicked that first goal, it sort of felt like, okay, maybe this is our time and maybe we are going to win. And then when Alice kicked her third goal of the game, then I think everyone was sort of like, okay.
Party time.
We're winning this thing.
Yeah, and we all turned to each other when we were sitting there going, how good is it to know that we've sort of won a game and we could just chill for a little bit of time? Because we said this against Richmond as well.
Yeah.
We were like, this is so weird that the game's still going and we're winning, and I don't feel like we're going to get caught.
Yeah.
And that's the second time this year I had that feeling.
It was awesome.
It was very, very good.
Just to be able to genuinely soak it up and enjoy it.
Yeah, there was little pockets of kangas going on in our end as well, which was good to hear. Some of the kids throwing out kangas as well. I'm not saying Bay 29 is the most influential force in AFL football, but it absolutely is.
Yeah.
And we've absolutely set the standard for kangas at the game. I mean, from one of the most cringeworthy videos on the internet to being probably the best chant in the AFL history.
Yeah.
Kangas are big, and they're here to stay.
Absolutely. They're not going anywhere. I also loved the final minute of the game. The North song just broke out amongst the crowd.
Absolutely.
And so good.
Oh, imagine when we could do this at Marvel Stadium, Marnie.
I know.
I need that.
The MCG?
Absolutely. On grand final day. The women have given me the taste now.
Yeah.
And I need this from everyone in that club.
I love this club so much.
How good. How good.
I love it.
It felt like the fans were so united. And this is what the thing that the W has given the North fans that go and actively support this is like the whole crowd would just start chanting, you know, like clapping North Melbourne, and the whole crowd just starts doing it. Everyone starts to get up, and that whole end behind the goals that we were sitting in was so united.
Yeah.
And I maybe haven't felt like that much throughout the men's season. And it was so nice that through the women's season as well, even when we're at Arden Street, you can feel that the crowd's together as well.
Yeah,
But
100%.
when the crowd was as big as it was yesterday, or the whole stand is packed. Not the numbers wise, it was massive,
It's
but
just the noise,
everyone
and the
was packed
atmosphere,
into that stand,
and everyone was excited.
Absolutely, it was so good. So, what a day! Final siren goes, and we win
Party
a premiership,
time.
and it was party time. And you know, watching Emma Carney celebrate, and you know, Tess Craven, and everyone's like giving double cobras and jumping on each other and that sort of stuff.
Fun.
Some of the social media content they've put up this morning, a few F-bombs getting thrown around in there, and that means it's passionate, and I like that. I said,
Yeah.
no censorship here. We just won a premiership.
Yeah.
You can say what you like.
Lids off.
The lid was off.
I threw
And-
all my lids in the bin this morning.
there would have been a lot of lids in the bin at the Carlton grounds, and we would have picked them up and threw them up again because
Yeah.
we actually have a reason that the lid was off. The only time the lid was off down at Carlton's training ground was during that game.
I'm not contributing to that.
That's fair. That's fair. You have too many ties to that club, mate. What is it with blue and white with you?
I don't know.
You like Geelong too?
Yeah, Jeremy Cameron. Big Jezza fan.
You just like dad energy, don't you?
I do.
Yeah. If Jack Darling ever purchases a combine harvester, Marnie's going to ask to live with Jack Darling.
He's not what I expected.
Okay, give us the insight.
Sorry, just to divert, I met Jack Darling for the first time during the week, and I kind of expected him to be like as chaotic and unhinged as me. Not at all.
No one is.
No.
You're on a different level, mate. What do you mean? No.
No, so nice. Really nice, really relaxed.
Dad energy.
It was so embarrassing though. So I'm standing setting up to do an interview, and the players come out of the race, and I saw Jack, and I'm like, Jack, and I'm like waving, and then he like waved back, and then I looked over at Charlie, and I'm like, he doesn't know who I am.
Oh no.
I'm so embarrassed. And you know me, I'm never really lost for words. I was really lost for words. Anyway, we wrapped up, we went down and watched the rest of training. We were standing over at the fence and like near where the benches are and near the race. And when the boys came off to have their first drink break, Jack came over to say hi. And I was like, hi, Jack, I'm Marnie. I realised
You're going to get to know me very well.
Yeah, he goes, oh, no, I know who you are. And I was like,
Who doesn't?
oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
Anyway.
He should have been saying hello to you, Marnie, at the training ground. You know what I mean?
He's awesome. Every
course
time
he's
he
awesome.
came up for a break, he kept coming over and having a chat. And he said he loves the club and, you know, feels really welcome already in his first week. So, guys, if you do get a chance to meet Jack Darling before the end of the year, if you head down to training, I highly recommend having a chat with him. All of the new recruits, obviously, and all of the players. It was so good to see them all during the week. But Jack Darling, can confirm, is a gem.
2 questions. 1, does that mean you're sniffing a Jack Darling Coleman medal?
Yeah.
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 Lock that in. And who's taller, you or Caleb Daniel?
We're like the same height.
Fantastic. You should have borrowed the helmet and everyone might have thought you were Caleb Daniel. You could have just run on the ground and chucked a
These
few kicks off
photos
our
of
face.
me. These photos of me in the helmet from Helmet Day during the
Yeah,
year.
awesome. We'll doctor that up. We'll get on Photoshop and do some Photoshop work. Let's talk about some individual players' performances.
I want to talk about the backline first because I really want to talk about Sarah Ray and Emma Carney.
Okay.
I thought the two of them set the tone last night. Emma Carney, that was her 3rd game for the year. The first game against Richmond injured. Last week was the lowest possessions I think she's had. The second lowest possessions and the first lowest possessions was that game against Richmond when she did a hamstring. Wouldn't have known it last night.
The hamstring,
everything.
I did question if her hamstring was actually robotic. Did she take extra time to go and get a robotic hamstring? Because the amount of little Aiden Core candies sold was unbelievable. Now, we had a row of us sitting there, and for those who follow Close to a Flag, they posted up the Brooklyn Nets bench, who in the NBA is very famous for over-celebrating and waving towels and holding each other back and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
We were all doing that in the Bay, and it was so much fun. She did it twice too. She's taking the piss. It was crazy. I'm like, did she even actually do a hamstring, or did she want a little bit of time off to calculate the brain, ready to win a premiership?
I thought Jazzy Garner was definitely our best on ground, no doubt. Not going to argue with that, but I thought Emma Carney was the most impactful player. for North on the ground.
Interesting. Yeah, well, absolutely one of the most impactful. Like she just didn't look like she'd ever had time off from football.
Just an ultimate professional, and the way that she spoke post-game as well, just all class. Like I really love her, and to be able to get a premiership for her was amazing. Sarah Wright also just so nonchalant. Like,
she was very classy off the back line.
And just so cool, calm and collected.
Yeah.
Like the ball at one stage there was coming into Brisbane's forward line at a bit of a frenetic pace. Like there was a patch of about 5 to 7 minutes where they just kept go, go, go. And Sarah Wright just stood under it and just took mark after mark after mark. Just really, really, really impressive stuff.
Admin 2 called Sarah Wright best on ground. And he called it about half time.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I think the two of them and Jazzy Garner were, and then Alice
it's interesting
and
with
Vicky.
Garner because I didn't feel like, and she had one of those games where there was a player who was remember when LDU was like racking up stats, but it didn't look like he was super impactful.
Yeah.
I felt like that about her in the first half. And this is not a criticism whatsoever.
No.
Because she was still very good. But like Riddell and Garner to me were quiet.
Yeah.
And not with possessions, like it was little handballs and little things around it.
Yeah.
But no like outstanding runs or breaking the game open by them specifically. They were just a link in the chain for absolutely everything. But I definitely didn't feel like they were having their best games. I just think, we were really winning that ball. It was gritty, right? And it was all out of contest. And there was a lot of like Craven or, Taylor Gatt or someone coming in from the wings and winning that footy and sending it forward. And that's how I feel like we were winning it all. So, and honestly, like, was Jasmine Garner the best on ground for me? I don't know. It's a question. She was definitely one of the best. Yeah. Absolutely. And 35 touches and 10 clearances.
I mean, it's a very,
something.
very impressive score sheet.
It's incredible. But I think, like, honestly, and I know my Vicky Wall love is real, but Vicky Wall was one of the best on the ground. Craven was one of the best on the ground.
Yeah.
Sarah Wright was one of the best on the ground. And then Carney and Garner. That's probably the top 5. Oh, Lachlan as well. God, I don't know. There's so many of them. But I was surprised Garner won the medal, but not because she didn't deserve it at all. I just felt like maybe there was other players that had bigger impacts on the day. It almost might be a bit of LeBron James syndrome where she gets 30 touches and you're like, yeah, that's kind of what she does every
that
week.
never happens. She went missing again in the AFLW awards earlier in the week.
Yeah.
Like
that
Riddell
was weird
came
too.
second, and they are a very, very, very classy
Garner's been the best
1-2
midfielder over the season.
1-2 punch. Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
But like you're right. Do you think that our expectation now is for them to back it up week in, week out? That maybe we notice other players more when they have impact rather
For
than...
sure. Garner gets 20 or 30 touches and we don't blink anymore because that's just what she does.
It's like a Harry Sheasel thing. Like it's the expectation now.
100%. Yeah. Harry Shears has 28 touches and we're like, I had a quiet game.
Yeah.
And I absolutely think that's it. And I'm probably suffering from that a little bit as well. Jasmine Garner didn't do anything crazy, flashy or break the game open and have an individual moment, but she was in absolutely
She was probably
everything.
really integral to the overall function and flow of the game. I thought Mia King was sensational as well. Thought she was in everything. I think that, again, really solid as part of that defence. It's interesting, right? We had 3 players that made the All-Australian side, no defenders.
Crazy.
But I just think that the system of the backline is so good that it's quite hard to pick out
that is
individual
true.
players.
You would hope that they would look at that and be like, well, this is the best defence in the league. So you've at least got to have, you should at least have 2 players.
Well, Sarah Wright was nominated and made the squad, didn't make the final side.
Crazy.
That's probably a mistake.
Absolutely, it's a mistake.
Yeah.
I mean, look, I'd assume in the AFLW they're trying to spread the love between all the teams.
Yeah, but that's
and
bullshit.
It is because there's 6 unreal teams in the W. There's a group of competitive ones and the other ones aren't up to scratch, right? We'll call it how it is. The league was way too quick on making 18 teams. There's so much talent in the league, but not enough to spread evenly over 18 teams, right? Even, and I get the inclusivity and that sort of stuff of it where you want to probably nominate someone from most teams and all that sort of thing.
That doesn't happen in the AFL.
It doesn't, but I guess the AFLW isn't as cutthroat and brutal as maybe the AFLW.
Well, it should be, because then it's hard to take it. Like, I love it.
Completely agree.
It, but it's hard to take it seriously if that's the attitude they're going to have.
And that's it. And look, it's one of those ones where, if you're a men's player, you're going to get criticised beyond belief, and that's just kind of part of your job. And that hasn't happened in the W. And look, I don't want it to happen in the W at all. But I think there's going to be more. I think if you're going to be top of the line, and if being great comes with being hated too, and that doesn't mean it's fair, but that's just kind of actors, musicians. That's
Everything.
just what it is. You know what I mean?
North Melbourne fan podcasters.
Absolutely. You know, yeah, yeah. Mainly just criticism. That's fine. It's just part of it. If the W is going to grow into, you know, a league that thousands of people are going to be going to, then criticism is going to come. And maybe until they get more brutal and be like, remember when Geelong was just dominating through the 2010s and things like that, and half the All-Australian squad felt like cats and Pies players all the time? That's what that should have been.
100%. You know, you've got to give credit where credit's due. The integrity of the league. As North fans, like we've questioned it multiple times this year because we're sitting here, we're like, this is far and beyond the best. It's the best season by any AFLW
best AFLW side in history.
We didn't lose a game.
No.
The team is just littered with stars.
Yeah. And the best team in AFLW history, Brisbane Lions, scored 1 goal against us in the grand final.
Yet 3 All-Australians.
Yeah.
Not one defender.
Crazy.
It's crazy. It's ridiculous.
Jasmine Ferguson plays on the best key forward every week in the W, and we don't concede goals.
Yeah.
So I just don't understand. The most underrated player for us in that backline is Bresnahan as well.
Oh, she's a gun.
Just in and under everything, and good disposal of the backline.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, if I'm looking at the team from last night right now, right? These are the players that I don't think you should question can make the All-Australian. Ferguson, I think, playing on the best key forward every week, and we concede. I'd safely say we concede the least goals in the league, right? Without looking at the stat. Makes sense. Ferguson, absolutely. Garner, not even a question. O'Loughlin, obviously. Sherlaw had an unreal season. It's crazy she's not in there. Riddell and King as well, absolutely has to be in there. Other than that, you can question, like Craven, I think is very, very close. I think she came on sort of later in the season and through the finals was incredible. But, you know, even Taylor Gatt, like what she's been able to do second half of the season has sort of come into her own a little bit. Craven and Gatt maybe aren't going to make the All-Australian, maybe weren't on that All-Australian squad level. But, you know, next season, absolutely. You know what I mean? But there's 5 or 6 players that shouldn't even be a question to be in that All-Australian squad.
100%.
But, hey, it is what it is. The league hates us because we're massive.
We just need to take it and own it.
Absolutely.
And we'll just celebrate it, and it'll be, the onus will be on the fans and on the club to sing the praises from the rooftops, because this side, and you know, we've obviously been very lucky, with the exception of Emma Carney, there's had very few injuries throughout the season as well, and that plays a big part as well. Also, last night unscathed, clean bill of health coming out of that. Unlike last season, whereas I think Brisbane did lose a couple of players in the second half to knocks and injuries and stuff as well, which probably would have impacted them.
Well, how physical was the game? Like, there's probably not as many injuries in the W in general as the men's, just because it's not quite as quick and physical.
Oh, it was brutal at some points.
But this is probably the most physical W game I've seen.
It was very tough.
Without it being wet.
It was a really tough game. And Brisbane's an exceptional outfit too.
They matched our pressure a lot of the times. We just had more class.
They absolutely matched us, and we were just able to negate and grind out the win.
There's a player called Poppy Bolts in the Lions team. I've just seen that, and that is a fun name. That's all. That's all I have to comment on. Dakota Davison did nothing as well. Like the person last year that lost us the grand final and came back, and was she on the ground? I'm not sure.
Well held.
Yeah, well held.
Sarah Wright had the job on her and just
There's a few.
shut her down.
Well, Ferguson seemed to be botting her a lot in contest, and then maybe when there was a little bit more space, then they would switch. Because that's why I wanted to praise Jasmine Ferguson's game as well. Because, you know, any time there was one-on-ones, I feel like Ferguson had the assignment on Dakota, but then Sarah Wright was always buzzing around, you know, trying to make that spoil or create that contest around her. And there's got to be a focus on Dakota, because we know from last year what she can do. But, you know, so quiet for the game, but still no All-Australians in the team. So who cares?
The defense is actually quite interesting, because I think Libby Birch plays a really underrated role.
I agree.
In that defense. So if you have a look at it, it's sort of like a bit of a triangle. So you've got our 2 defenders. Usually it's Ferguson and Wright, and they are usually man on with the key defenders of the opposition. And then you've always got a loose man back in defence in the last line of defence, so that any quick kicks that come towards the opposition's goal, there's always someone there. And usually that's Libby Birch, sort of just floating. So there's often times where she doesn't have a direct opponent, but she's kind of always there as like the wall.
There's a lot of quick kicks. Well, don't say wall, because I'm going to get excited.
But you know what I mean? So that's kind of how, and that's what makes, again, that really helps the defense, and I think that's what makes them so dangerous.
There's a wall in our
unit.
back line and a wall in our forward line. It's unbelievable.
Crazy.
Unbelievable. Any more performances in particular you'd like to talk about before we finish it up?
Oh, look, I just think that everyone had their moment and everyone did stand up when they needed to.
No one played bad at all.
Absolutely love the excitement from Ruby Tripodi as well. She's like a little pocket rocket. Like anytime she gets near the ball, she's buzzing around. It's just, I mean, this team, what more can we say about them as a collective? They really are such an impressive outfit, and I'm so proud that, we were really able to get them the premiership that they so thoroughly deserve.
Absolutely. And, great storylines coming back against the team that knocked us out, the best team across the AFLW's history. And we're on top now, and we're the standard. So good luck beating us next year. I don't know if there's players out of contract. I actually haven't really looked up much of that sort of stuff. I just know
think
this
that
is
the
a team,
buy-in now would just be enormous.
if we bring, 90% of this team back, which I think we will, good luck.
Anything can happen.
Good luck back to back.
Back
to back, I'm calling it. Watch out.
Jeez.
I feel like Marnie during the men's season, and I guess the women actually win. So, is this what it's like on the other side?
A little bit of positive Delulu never goes astray.
God, I need to go and have a good hard look at myself, I reckon, because I'm losing my mind. Oh, what a fun time it was. It was good to see all the celebrations and Croc's speech after the game. And
I love him.
Yep. And
he doesn't get enough credit, I don't think.
No.
Voted the best coach in the league during the week as well. What he's brought to the football club over, it's close to 4 decades
long
now.
time, yeah.
Really, I mean, his deep understanding of what it takes to be a true North Melbourne person would also really impact this side.
They look like they got such a good relationship with him as well.
He's great.
Everyone's got nicknames. Everyone seems together. They're all hugging and shaking hands, and I don't know. It's just a collective unit.
The way he's transformed this side and really stepped it up to a real professional level. I mean, he came in 4 seasons ago, I should say, as coach of the women. And I think we've always known that we've had talent. We've always known that we've been able to get there. But I think under his guidance, we've actually been able to unlock it, and the proof's now in the pudding.
Absolutely. And look, a lot of the players are more mature now. We've got a lot of players like 30 plus as well. So when you look at all the last premiership teams for the men's, it's all old squads and things like that. Collingwood, Geelong and Brisbane have 3 of the oldest teams in the AFL. So experience wins. And we finally sort of built that up along with young players coming through as well, where we're sort of doing that Geelong thing where we've got a bunch of guys who are going to make us consistent, but dropping younger talents in there and building them up as you go to make a solid foundation. And Alistair Clarkson, I hope you're doing the same thing, mate, because trust me, when Larky and LDU and everyone are 30, we're going to be winning premierships, and then you're going to be like, oh, don't worry, Harry Shears is only 25, so everything's fine.
And Jack Darling's 40.
And he's still playing and winning Commons. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Jack Darling is the best forward that North Melbourne has ever seen.
Let's go.
Wow.
I'm here for it.
All right, let's go. Before I say anything more stupid than that, love you, Jack Darling. Anyway, thank you for listening. Hopefully everyone who got out to the game, hopefully everyone had a great time and celebrated. It looked like the game was going to be an absolute rained out nightmare. But then the sun came out and I had to move seats because I was getting burnt with my
perfect
pasty
evening.
skin. It was
all
fun,
round.
and the sunset over the ground was pretty cool.
Awesome.
And what did you think, really quick before you go, what did you think of the night game?
Well, I've actually been to a night grand final before. Right, so I lived in Perth when the 2021 grand final, and that was sensational.
Okay. Because it felt weird watching it over here.
Yeah.
But that would have been at a different time.
Oh, well, that was twilight. It actually was twilight. So it was twilight in Perth, which this kind of had a bit of a twilight feel because the sun was still up as the game started.
Perth's ahead of us, right?
Perth's 2 hours behind. They would have been 2 hours behind at the time. So it was about 5 o'clock start in Perth. So it would have been like a 7 o'clock, 5:30, 7:30 start here. The 2020 grand final in Brisbane, that was a night grand final.
That's right. See, 2020 grand final is the one I genuinely forgot that ever happened because I had an argument with someone. I was adamant that there was no grand final in Brisbane ever. I was like, it was in Perth. And they're like, no, but the one year before. And I'm like, there wasn't.
Yeah.
There was. I genuinely have no memory of that game. That's how bad the world was at that time.
No, I completely get that. And I guess, I do have the advantage of having been at the 21 grand final. It was, I loved the atmosphere and the feeling at the 21 grand final. Like I said, it was twilight. It was night here, but it was twilight over in Perth. But then, like I said, with daylight savings here now, it had that twilight effect as the sun was still up, as the game was, and then it went darker and darker. I like it. Is it something I would want in the men's game? No. The only thing I don't like about it is the build-up of the day is so long. Now, I was running around town yesterday, and I'm not as invested in the women as I am in the men. So the waiting game wasn't so excruciating for me personally.
Yeah.
But from a player's perspective, I think it would have been. I spoke to Bella Eddy during the week, and she said like killing that much time is a pain, but they've done it before a few times this season, so it's okay. But if I know that on grand final day, that day is long enough for me with the 2:30 bounce. So I think I'd be tearing my hair out if we started at 7:30.
All right, let's leave it there, Marnie. It's actually quite hot in this room and I'm sweating. So time to go. Thank you for listening, everybody.
Thank you so much for listening.
Everyone had a good time yesterday. Celebrate hard. Watch the replay a few
Don't do
times.
anything we wouldn't do.
No, absolutely, which is a lot of different things, and that you can leave that up to interpretation. Thank you, Marnie, for coming on the podcast.
Thank you for
and
having me.
Driving out to this incredible studio we've got here, which is just
State of the art.
my room. I'm going to go and watch the replay probably and, think about the time that they held up the cup. And there's a great photo of Tess Craven wearing the cup on her head as well, which is very funny.
I did love that. Yeah. If you want to share all of your favourite memories from last night with us, don't forget to follow us on socials. It's Further North Pod, Facebook, Instagram, X, TikTok, YouTube. Hi, YouTube, if you're watching.
Subscribe to YouTube, please.
Yes.
YouTube's doing very well for us recently, and you can see our faces.
You can also send Josh love letters to furthernorthpod@gmail.com. And if you want more North content, you can follow Kanga TV on YouTube, Instagram, and X as well.
There's so much North content.
There's so much North content. We are just turning it out. We are massive. We can't stop talking about North.
No, absolutely. We'll be back with probably one more pod, and then I'm going to finish it up for the year. Yeah. I reckon so, because I'm pretty cooked. I've done nearly 80 episodes this year and I'm tired. So I'm going to take a couple of months off and then come back for pre-season. We're going to do it all again, which is going to be terrifying. But probably back in a few days within the week, and we'll see you guys then. But other than that, North Flag Roos.
Go Roos.
Okay, see you guys.
Bye. I love North.